life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Good morning, everybody. I'm running just a little late this morning, and first and foremost, before we do anything, I want to acknowledge the fact, thanks to Gina Jameson for filling in, and my lovely bride, and thank you very much. And what we're going to do is possibly forego Kate Smith this morning, but I'm going to have Gina, if she would, give the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll start with our regular programming. Gina, if you would, please.
Actually, we've got Al on for the pledge, and then I'll do the weather.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Al, please.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I appreciate it, Al. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll talk about it later on. Thank you.
You better slow down, young man.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And it's time for the weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. You've got to check out their great selection of flooring and home decor items, and I know they had everything so beautiful and so pretty, all dressed up for Valentine's Day. Now, of course, Easter right around the corner. Don't forget to stop in, and these are the folks who can help you with all your carpeting needs, redo your kitchen, you name it, at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, Cheney Flooring and Home Design. And right now, here is the weather.
All right, weather for today. Actually, it's going to be a beautiful day considering it is like mid-February. Sunny skies, high right near 50. Going to be slightly breezy, not too bad tonight. We're expecting a low of 26 under clear skies. And for tomorrow, another gorgeous day in the Magic Valley. Sunny skies, high of 51. Currently sitting at 26 degrees here at the KBAR studio.
Oh, boy, she does a great job. Thank you, Gina. And it's brought to everybody by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. I want to apologize up front for the being late this morning. We had a few problems that had to be addressed, and so therefore we're catching up a little bit. And to our sponsors and advertisers, please bear with me today. I apologize for the lateness of getting started. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew. These are wonderful, wonderful folks that can take all your rumply crumplies and make them look brand spanking new. All you have to do is stop in. And don't forget, check out the prepaid gift cards from Daryl's Cleaners. Wonderful gifts to give somebody in the family, or maybe that college student that comes back and needs their clothes cleaned. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Also, our acknowledgments go out this morning to our dear friends at Daryl's Cleaners, along with SafeLink Internet. SafeLink Internet, of course, at their number, 677-8000. No contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data, and you can get the first month free plus free installation, just $24.95. You better give them a call. Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet. SafeLink Internet Services. Again, call 677-8000, waiting to serve you. Whew. We got to gather and catch up, and I want to say thank you again for all the very, very nice cards that I have received over here. Thank you so much for being so kind to me and my lovely bride. We do appreciate it. And right now, calls are welcome and appreciated at 436-2244. Excuse me, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your calls that I know are coming in, I want to remind you, too, about Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Furnace filters. Again, another week of mild temperatures, but then I've heard some prognostication that we may see some colder and cooler temperatures, so make sure that furnace can run efficiently for you. Stop into Ramsey Heating and Electric and check out new quality air filters for your furnace at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Well, I'll tell you what, Valentine's Day is over, and we want to say thank you to our dear friends at Valley White Home and Ranch. My goodness, they had that lovebird sale going on with all the clothing and the jewelry and the belts and the Western boots, and of course now they got all the hats and the caps and the jackets and the vests. You name it, it's all there for you to keep warm. And also 4-H'ers. It's not too early for you to be thinking about your projects and what kind of equipment you're going to need. All the feed for your livestock right there at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Sean and Mandy and the whole crew, you stop in and see them today at Valley White Home and Ranch. And don't forget, too, their annual oil sale is going on right now. 5% off bulk oil, 10% off packaged oil at Valley White Home and Ranch in Rupert. Whew. Okay, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Over the weekend, I just sat in my geezer chair and just was, I don't know what word describes the feeling that I had when I watched the news and I saw the videos of ISIS marching 21 Coptic Christians by the shores of the ocean and then beheading them. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, where are we at in the world today? Have we become this calloused to these beheadings, these burnings, the death, the mass mayhem, the destruction, that we as a society can't do anything? And I'm just shocked that our president and administration, our Congress, they're basically not showing any outrage. They're basically not planning to do anything to rid the world of this cancer, these vermin. And I was reading a note in the paper on the way back home this morning, and it said now their next goal is to conquer Rome in Italy. I mean, what kind of a world are we looking at? And I mean this when I say this. God help us. God help us. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. You know, there was a good letter in the paper. It says Obama and Islam. I thought that was an interesting letter.
Yes, it was.
Extremely interesting. Telling a little bit about the history of the whole Islam, the Muslim movement. And so it's be well for people if they don't get the paper to try and find that on the internet situation. But, you know, basically the bottom line is that the whole word we hear Allah all the time, and the quotes about the fact that Quran instructs Muslims to cut off the heads of those who will not submit. You know, that's Surah 47:4 and Surah 61.
Well, I don't want to give them any credence as to where it is. Just go ahead and make your point, because as far as telling them where it is in their book, I'm not going to help them at all.
Oh no, I'm just telling. Yeah. I'm just saying that it's in the Quran that instructs. You know, if you don't become one of them, we're going to do what happened to those 21 Christians over the weekend.
You know, really, let's get to the point right here. Let me ask you a question. What do we need to be doing? I don't want all this recapitulation of what happened. I just want to know, what do we need to be doing right now? In your opinion, what needs to be done at 9 o'clock this morning?
Well, number one, we need to stop all immigration of those kind of people into this country, because otherwise we're going to become another Europe. They've already got the problem. We've got it in some of the cities right now. So that's the number one. Just close the borders, stop all immigration, not just, legal or otherwise, until we can get a handle on who's here.
What is so hard about that? What is so hard to understand? I agree with you, Adrian, but what is so hard to understand that there are bad people coming in, and we don't know who's coming across our southern border? We don't know who's landing at the airports under phony and false pretenses. many of which are United States citizens that have been absolutely, their minds have been warped into joining and being a part of this terrible death march across the world. What are we going to do? I mean, I agree with you, close the borders, but nobody in Congress, including the weak-kneed, milquetoast Republicans that I had respect for when they won the election, but I don't now, they're not doing anything.
Well, that's true, and the battle lines have been drawn, and of course, our president made two statements that are very outstanding on Muslim law. The future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. On Christianity, of course, you remember hearing this, whatever we once were, we are no longer a Christian nation.
Oh, I know.
That's pretty obvious by his last prayer talk.
Yeah, and, I have no respect, never did, for Barack Obama. But when he stood up and said, well, before we get up on our high horse, let's try to recall what happened 1,000 years ago. Well, first of all, this country was not formed 1,000 years ago. None of our government was here 1,000 years ago. Absolutely. But yet it's a damn America campaign by Obama, and I'm sick of it.
Oh, I am too, absolutely. And my Christian friends over the weekend I talked to, but the problem is most people, we want to be tolerant, and all this kind of stuff. Tolerant, they're going to be tolerant to the point where just what happened in Germany and Russia, all these different, you be tolerant until they come and get you.
Absolutely. Adrian, always good to hear from you. Thank you for your call. Thank you very, very much. Got to pay some bills and catch up if I can. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and we will be at Lunch Bunch this Thursday. Yep, that's right. This Thursday, the 19th, is our Valentine's Day Lunch Bunch, and Deanne's got a little special for something that, for everybody that's going to be there, as a matter of fact. Well, don't forget, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The meals are fantastic. You're going to love the menu and the people. The service is out of this world, and they've got two locations serving you. Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and 291 Poline Road in Twin Falls. You stop in to Denny's today. Also, real quick, like I said, we're running a few minutes late, but I want to also mention Berry Equipment and Rental. They've got the equipment to get any job done right. All you have to do is please stop in at a location that's handy for you, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Nick and Eli, the old Packer backer, I'll tell you what, good people, and they know equipment. Whether you're looking to retail equipment sales or equipment rentals, parts and service, it's all there for you. As I said, the equipment to get the job done right, Berry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see them today. Oh, my. I'm going to take just a moment to catch my air, and we're going to have the Mount Harrison Audiology Capital Press Ag Minute. But I want to remind you that if you're having trouble hearing anything, hearing loss is not normal. Hearing loss is not an age problem. So please remember Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and the number to call to start hearing what you've been missing, 312-0957. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. The USDA has deregulated 2 genetically modified apple varieties from British Columbia for propagation and sales in the United States. Okanagan Specialty Fruits of Summerlin, British Columbia, developed a type of Golden Delicious and Granny Smith apples that won't turn brown when sliced. It used a type of genetic engineering to silence the gene that controls browning. The company believes non-browning and GM apples with other attributes could increase apple consumption and returns to growers. While supportive of the science, the apple industry has opposed deregulation of the GM apples because it believes it could damage apple sales. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West's Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Oh, thank you very much, and our hats go off as a thank you to the Capital Press for all they do with the Ag Minute, and our thanks also to Mount Harrison Audiology with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. And the number, hope you can hear this, 312-0957. You call Mount Harrison Audiology today. You know what we normally do on Mondays, and I welcome phone calls, but at this time we give away a half dozen delicious cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. And all you have to do, if you are the lucky winner, then you call her at 436-0354 and tell them what day you'll be in to pick up your half dozen cinnamon rolls, so they'll be all fresh and waiting for you. And all you have to do is show your ID that you're the winner, and there you go, delicious cinnamon rolls. And let me see, if I got a question lined up, let's see if I've got anything here for this morning. Here we go. Name the actor that was the star in the old TV show Wells Fargo, and what state did he live in? Name the actor that starred in the old TV series Wells Fargo, and what state did he live in? Give me a call at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, and you might be the lucky winner of a half dozen cinnamon rolls from Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the square in Rupert. Come on, name the actor that was the lead actor in the TV series Wells Fargo, and that was back in the 60s. And what state was he from? And lived there almost all of his life. Okay? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm surprised nobody's called. That's an easy one. Hey, by the way, just a reminder, we're going to be telling you a lot more about this as we go along. Sheridan Ranch 20th Annual Production Sale is going to be March 7th at 1 p.m. at the Burley Auction Yard. You better believe it, Burley Livestock Sale Yard, selling 70 head of bulls, Gelbvieh, Angus, and Balancers. That's a Gelbvieh Angus cross. And this is going to be another ripping good sale, thanks to Cordell and his family. All these bulls are the sires for these bulls are proven carcass improvers and have high dollar beef and high marbling ratings. Don't forget, put it on your calendar right there at the Burley Livestock Sale Yard on March 7th at 1 p.m. Sheridan Ranch 20th Annual Production Sale, 70 head of ripping good bulls from the Sheridan Ranch. You better believe it. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes.
I owe you a huge apology.
Oh, why?
My outburst last week. I tend to get real riled up when I fall or in politics, and I say things that I really don't mean.
Helen, the last thing that you ever owe me is an apology. With you and your husband, as nice as you are, and great friends, and sometimes things slip out, fortunately not very often, but when they do, we just roll with it. We're all human beings, and what you did is something that I've caught myself on many times.
Thank you very much. I am so relieved. I've worried about it all weekend.
Well, there's a lot more things to worry about in life than that. And if somebody's that thin-skinned that they want to just, oh my goodness, the sky is falling, Chicken Little said a bad word, don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you, Zeb. Have a good day.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, folks. I'm giving away a half dozen of the biggest, best cinnamon rolls known to mankind at Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. And the question I thought was an easy one. Name the actor that starred in the TV series Wells Fargo, and what state was he from? Let's see if this one's got the right answer. Good morning. You're on the air.
Dale Robertson. He's from Oklahoma.
Who is this? Zach, you son of a gun, you're going to get fatter than a pig.
I am. I'm going to be bigger in the house here before long.
Oh, my goodness sakes. I'm going to have to start limiting it after this because you know the answers. It's right. Dale Robertson, and he lived in Oklahoma, and I ought to really make it tougher for you. What was the name of his ranch? And if you can come up with that, then I'll buy the other 6 dozen for you.
If you give me a minute, I could probably think of it.
No, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to buy any more. It was the Haymaker Ranch.
Okay.
All right. Hey, God bless you, man. You won. I can't take it away from you. You won. That's a good answer. Dale Robertson, Wells Fargo, and he was from Oklahoma. Thanks, Dale. I appreciate it, Zach. Thanks.
You bet.
All right. We'll tell everybody over there. You got to share those cinnamon rolls with everybody you work with, too. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Come on, give me a jingle. Going back to this video, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit loose-jointed this morning. Early this morning, we had a little health problem come up and had to leave the old ranch and run into town, but we're doing a lot better, no problem. And so I didn't get a chance to get everything all put up for the radio program this morning, but I want to say thanks to Gina, and she's always there to help us in a time of need, and also Deanne. So thank you very, very much to both of them. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Have we got to the point in civilization, and I underline that word and I put a question mark beside it, that the beheadings and the murders and the shootings and the burnings are not bothering us anymore? And I don't mean you specifically, me, but us as a civilization around the world. I mean, the outrage from these absolute uncivilized people that are doing this in the name of their fanatical religion. And what they're trying to do is take over the world, where they said now the group plans to conquer Rome. What needs to be done? Tell me what you think Obama, his administration, and our Congress need to start doing today, along with other governments around the world. It's almost like they're letting King Abdullah of Jordan float the boat by himself, helping with airstrikes, possibly sending technical advisors in. This is in need of a scourge right now. And I use that word. We need to absolutely clean the planet of this evil that started all over. What is it in now? 14 different countries in the Middle East. 14 different countries have suffered death and mayhem due to ISIS. And now they want to expand into Italy and possibly conquer Rome. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, please. Every Tuesday, we say thank you very much to our friends over at Minnecasia Sales, Zach and Joanne and the whole crew at 1321 East Main in Burley. My goodness sakes, they sponsor Dr. History. And, of course, Minnecasia Sales, right across from the airport and ready to serve you with the best of windows and doors, garage doors, all your carpet needs, vinyl and metal siding, everything. And they've even got the Tartar Ranch and farm equipment, all the panels and the cattle handling clip equipment, everything for you at Minnecasia Sales. Telephone number to give them a call, 878-2091. That number again, 878-2091. They're located at 1321 East Main in Burley, Minnecasia Sales. Little problem with my voice here this morning, but we'll get through it. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, while I'm trying to clear my throat a little bit this morning, thank you for filling in.
Not a problem, anytime. Of course, do you want to do the weather, or are you just still clearing your throat?
I'm trying to figure out why I'm having a problem in my throat this morning. That's the least of my worries right now. But I've had this throat problem since early this morning at about 2 o'clock. And but I wanted to say thank you very much. Let's do the weather, and hopefully we'll get some calls coming in. As I said, I apologize to you. I'm not prepared like I normally am with subject matter for the program this morning.
Not a problem.
We'll keep doing the very best that we can. The weather this hour is brought to everybody by Red's Trading Post, and we certainly want to remind everybody the best of firearms from Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, and Winchester. All your ammunition and accessories right there at Red's Trading Post with Ryan and the rest of the crew, including a staff that really knows everything about guns and ammo at Red's Trading Post in Twin Falls. And now here's Gina with the weather.
Okay, weather for today. It's actually going to be really nice considering we are in mid-February. Today, sunny skies, high of 49. It's just a little bit breezy right now, but winds will be picking up as we get towards the afternoon hours out of the northeast, right around 10 miles an hour. Tonight, clear skies, low of 26. That's going to mean frosty windows tomorrow morning. And then for tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 51, currently sitting at 26 degrees here at KBAR Studios.
Thank you very much, Gina. And, of course, our weather brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Thank you very much. I got to ask Gina a question. We'll start it off this way. Gina, is a college education necessary for a person, a college education, I should say, with a degree, for a person to become president or vice president of the United States?
I think it should be. But I don't think it is, but I think it should be. Along with military service, I think that has to be a prerequisite.
You're making it a lot tougher, and I appreciate that and respect your remarks. But I would say this. As far as education is concerned, some of the best presidents never or very limited ways attended college.
That's kind of, how do I want to put this, disheartening and discouraging, because if you are going to be president of the United States of America, number one, I want you to be well educated. I want you to have a good grasp of what our Constitution means, what the U.S. government is, its branches, how far it reaches. I want you to have,
I understand.
Good English skills. I want you to have good public speaking skills. And honestly, if you're going to be president of the United States of America, not only should you have your bachelor's degree, not only should you have your master's degree, but you should also have your doctorate. And, by the way, and I will stick to this, you better have served in the military.
Well, now, before we take that call, caller, stand by. We'll be right with you. Let me just throw this at you. Scott Walker from Wisconsin, the governor, was in his last year of college, and he was offered a job for something he wanted to do, possibly for the rest of his life's work. And he decided to leave school and take that job and become a productive member of our society. And Howard Dean is criticizing him, saying that he's not qualified to be the president.
Who is Howard Dean, and does he have a college education?
Yeah, he's a doctor. Remember, he's the one that during the elections the last time, he was screaming and yelling, and he ran, as a matter of fact, for the president on the Democratic ticket back in 2008, and he's absolutely one of the biggest loudmouths in the Democratic Party. My point is that this man had a job offered to him, and he was in college, but he decided that he would quit school and take that work because it was a really good job, something that he wanted to do at that time for a life's work.
Okay, that I can understand, but you can also do part-time classes. You can still continue on with your education, just take one class here, one class there, and you kind of just pick away at it. For me, I think higher education is, it's an investment to your life, and it's an investment to your career as you move onward and upward, because you always need that continuing education.
I wouldn't argue that, but then I would throw this back at you. The most educated president in the history of the United States is Barack Hussein Obama, and how's that working out for us?
Not very well, because you know what? He didn't serve in the military.
There you go.
Okay, we've got two phone calls.
All right.
Fred, you're going to be second, and then whoever is on caller number one, you're first.
Who's on first? Here we go. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I would absolutely 110% disagree that a person needed a college degree to become president of the United States. Some of our most successful and brightest people never even went to college.
That's right.
So to make that a prerequisite is absolutely ludicrous. In fact, we probably get better people without a college degree than the idiots that we've produced lately.
You know, look at Ronald Reagan.
When a person goes and they go into really higher education, a doctorate degree or master's, they limit themselves so much in their field of study that they put blinders on them. They don't really understand or see past what they know. A PhD makes a pretty good post-hole digger.
I'm not going to argue your point. As a matter of fact, I lean towards you because when I look at Ronald Reagan and I look at many others that did not have that college degree, they were some of the most effective presidents ever in this nation's history. What about the point that was made a moment ago about serving in the military?
I don't think that should be a prerequisite, although I'm not opposed to that. But there's a lot of really intelligent people who really understand what we would need to do as far as a military background in our country without ever having served. Although I think it would definitely help. I think there's a lot to be said for those people that do serve.
And look at the current situation with a man that has actually the most, quote-unquote, education of any president. And, boy, that's working out really dandy for us, isn't it?
Well, that's the biggest point against it I would make is, these guys, that they get into a graduate program or something like that, and they put so much emphasis on what they're studying that they lose track of everything else in the world, and they put these blinders on, and they can't see past what they know.
Absolutely.
And you get so specialized into one thing that you don't understand anything else. You can't see any other point of view, and you've limited yourself to what you can understand and see.
I appreciate your call, sir. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Good morning, caller. Go ahead.
Hi, Zeb.
Hi.
Okay, I wasn't sure who it was because I think I wasn't sure how many people we had ahead of me.
Okay.
Education is not how many facts you've learned. It's what you do with the facts you've learned and how much wisdom you have.
Ah, there's the word. Yes.
And I don't think I totally lack in wisdom because of it. It is what you do with what you have and how much smarts you have as far as dealing with people, dealing with situations, and what you care about.
I think that was the best explained so far is about that one word, that six-letter word, wisdom. And let me just say this, and I'm not advocating him above other candidates at this particular time, but Scott Walker has been through the fire in running a state that was primarily a Democratic state that was being run right into the red. They were financially very unstable. He took over the lead as the governor of that state, even though it's a blue state, and he turned it completely around to where they paid their bills. Now they're in the black and they're making money. He survived a rerun at his being governor because the SEIU union wanted him out of there. He survived that, and who better qualified to possibly run the nation than a man that has seen and survived some of the most insidious things while being a governor?
Well, that's pretty darn good qualifications. Let's see what his running record is.
I agree. And Linda, thank you.
I think the running record of our present leader is not that good.
Well, see, that's my point. Everybody can say,
doing well when he won the election. He wasn't doing well then.
Well, as a matter of fact, I don't think he's going to have a legacy that's really going to open up anything as far as positive notes. I think he's going to have a legacy that looks like Swiss cheese.
Yeah, a lot of holes in it.
There you go. Thanks, Linda. God bless.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. There's a very nice lady right there. I appreciate her. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, Kilt Man.
Hey, well, number one, you got to call me and let me know what happened this morning.
All right, I will later. I don't want to talk about it now.
No problem. Hey, along these lines, I don't have a problem with an education. There's a lot of things that people can learn and know out there that you can't learn otherwise. But I've also seen a lot of people like that I basically claim them as intelligent idiots. They don't have the common sense, like the one caller said. They focus so much on their education, stuff like that, they've lost their common sense to where they cannot actually function with the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. I think a person needs to prove himself, physically prove himself to be president.
Let me ask you this.
Proven an ability to do certain things. Reagan had the ability to do certain things. There are certain people that have proven themselves.
That's right.
Well, use the term on the battlefield, basically, to show that they have the ability to do what needs to be done. And I think that's the highest and most important part right there, is one that can work with people, has proven that they can do the job, and have done it, that way.
Let me ask you a question right there, Kilt Man, and then I'll get some other people involved in here. What are you going to do as far as qualifying the various degrees? In other words, let's say that they graduate from college, or they have a degree in communications, or they have a degree in possibly woodworking. I mean, how are you going to qualify what is a degree that's acceptable to the general public if we're going to demand that they have a graduate from college?
Well, I think they need to prove themselves in the real world somewhere. Mm-hmm. They've got to prove that they've been able to handle certain situations, stuff like that. An education is great, but you have to have the ability to put it out there. These people that come out of college to be a lifer in politics, I don't like them. I don't trust them. I think somebody that comes out of the private sector that has the knowledge and ability and skills has a better chance of doing the job than a person with an education in politics.
What about the fact, and when Gina said this, I started nodding my head, because we're seeing right now with Obama a person that absolutely knows nothing about the military, has no insight into what needs to be done, nor does his security advisor have any insight as to what needs to be done, and our poor generals are sitting there working with rank amateurs. And what about the ability to have served or know much more about the integral parts of our military?
Well, there again, it'd be great if they have served, because they have a little bit more internal knowledge. But I think if you can get a guy that can work with the generals, work with them, work with the senators, stuff like that, find out what's going on, what actually, and give an intelligent answer or situation or solution to the situation. But listen to those people around him, the people that know what needs to be done, the people that have done it. If he's got those kind of people with him, then I don't have a problem with it. But he's got to have those people. He's got to have people that know what's going on. How do you get an intelligent answer for somebody that's never done it?
I agree.
He doesn't necessarily have to do it himself, but he's got to be able to listen and go with what he's told.
I agree. Kilt Man, thank you for your call, buddy. I'll call you later. Thank you.
All
right, take care. Don't forget Scouts CarQuest Auto and Truck Parts. My goodness sakes, you better believe they've got the Fleet Filter survey going on right now. Great way to save time when something breaks down. Just call them, find out about the survey. Scouts CarQuest Centers teamed up with Baldwin Filters, the heavy-duty filters in the industry. Don't forget Scouts CarQuest in Rupert at 323 East 8th Street on Highway 25. Scouts CarQuest in Burley, 518 Overland, and the Big Truck Center at exit 211 I-84. Scows. Every detail matters. You get a hold of them today. Okay? Calls welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Yeah, what do you think about that, though? I mean, I like Scott Walker. He's right now in some polls at the top of the polling, I should say, for the possible nomination on the Republican Party. I think he leads, there's so many various polls, the Koenikiak poll, and then, of course, Rasmussen poll, and you've got polls all over the country. But Jeb Bush, for some reason, is right there at the top of the pile on most of the prestigious polls. And there is one person I do not want to see even get a tour card to go through the White House. Don't trust him, don't want him in there. Caller, real quick, I've got a minute left. Go ahead.
Abraham Lincoln did not have a college degree.
That's right.
He never had a high school degree, but he knew the Constitution, and he lived by the Constitution, and the Constitution has 3 branches of government, and our president today has no clue about 3 branches of government.
Well stated, my dear friend. Good to hear from you. God bless you, and thanks for your call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
See you.
Real quick, caller, I'll get to you in just a minute. Stand by. I'm only going to have a couple of seconds. Founders Celebration at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Don't forget, all 7 locations serving you with the very best of tires, serving you with the very best of brake service, and, of course, serving you with the best of service. I mean, they take care of you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pauline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. All the batteries, front end alignment, shocks and struts, all of this for you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Caller, I've got exactly a minute. Real fast. Go.
Okay, I'm for Scott Walker all the way. The way he led Wisconsin and handled the unions there, and it was a democratic state, and I think he's the man to lead the United States of America back into the way it was before.
I love your thinking on that, Fred. God bless you. Thanks for your call, my dear friend. I got to go to the news. All right, buddy. Thank you. We're going to take a little break. I got to catch my air and maybe get my throat back. And we will be back in about 6 minutes. Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. Good morning. I'm Zeb Bell with, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, which include Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho,
always at your disposal is exactly right. These folks really take care of you at Western Waste Services, and all you have to do to get on the route service to get rid of your garbage is just call them at 734-6969, locally owned and operated. Of course, they've got the very best of everything you're looking for, whether it's dumpsters, whether it's roll-offs, they've got all the porta potties, you name it. Just give them a call, 734-6969. Always at your disposal, Western Waste Services. Also, I want to say thank you very, very much to our dear friend, and that's Joel Heward, his family and his staff at Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Very flexible hours, and they will travel to rural towns and churches to help you with all the arrangements when there's the passing of a loved one. Please call them at 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. Right now, let's go to the phone lines, and one of my dear, dear friends is with us this morning, and he's been on this show for many, many years, and that's, of course, Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. Good morning, Frosty. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Just reporting from Golden, Colorado with pretty much a whiteout and about 10 inches of snow on the ground. It's a lucky thing I'm here this morning because that ski slope was calling.
Listen, I appreciate every Monday getting a chance to visit with you, and I always want to compliment you, especially on the subject of illegal aliens. You have nobody in the United States, in my opinion, has more knowledge and has written more comprehensive articles about illegal immigration and what's happening with the aliens coming into our country than you. But over the weekend, I listened to quite a few of the different news reports, Frosty, that why are these people in government, why are the people in the news media just waking up to the fact that you've been telling us for a long, long time by giving them Social Security numbers and providing them driver's licenses, what's going to stop them from turning these voting polls upside down and creating a real mess when voting time comes?
Well, you would be very correct on creating a mess, and the mess is going to be all over the American people. And we've talked about this for going on 10 years now, and there's no question, both of my books, Immigration's Unarmed Invasion, Deadly Consequences, is coming to fruition faster than even I imagined. And then, of course, the population issue, America on the Brink, the next added 100 million Americans, is also speeding toward fruition. And Zeb, there are a few voices out there, your voice and my voice. There's a speaker here in Peter Boyles in Denver, Colorado on KNUS. It is really bringing top experts in like Robert Spencer from jihadwatch.com. And hopefully enough Americans understand. I just got a letter from one of my contacts in Europe, and they said that everybody's terrified of Islam over there because they literally, the rape rates in Sweden and Norway are off the charts. The terrified just violence that's impending on Europe at any point and any time is terrifying the Europeans. They don't know how to deal with it because they've swallowed the belly, the beast into their belly. And of course, the same thing's happening over here in America. Tomorrow, you may all go to newswithviews.com and you'll see part 14 of my Impregnating America with Muslims, and America is becoming a holding pen for Islamic violence. And I got that term from a Canadian who said multiculturalism makes a nation no more than a holding pen. These multi-ethnic people come into the country, they don't integrate even among themselves. Isn't it foolish to assume that one day they will live together in one big happy family? This multicultural nightmare that we're all facing right now is raising its head in many ugly ways. Just this last weekend in Denver, Colorado, they were spitting on the American flag, crushing it into the ground.
Oh, my.
They were literally a little bit of a mob down there in Denver, but no one lifted a hand because we're afraid to. And that's what's going on. So it's going to be interesting as this thing progresses, and the American people, if they don't stand up and speak out, and they don't say something, and they don't take action, then we will go the way of Europe, and I'm really quite terrified of that happening, even in our lifetime.
You know, I totally agree with everything you said, and I'll say this, and I want you to respond. I was really pushing at the midterm elections for the Republicans to take over and start running the Senate and start and keep running the House in a manner of where we could get back to following our Constitution and what made this country great. They have so far dropped the ball, and I don't see any backbone. Would you agree or disagree with me?
Well, Zeb, I see a lot of backpedaling.
That's
and
good.
Really, it's extraordinary. Pardon me. It's extraordinary that our elected Republican leaders, who now have a majority in the Senate and now in the House at the same time, we could neutralize this president, but they're backpedaling and they're allowing this backdoor amnesty, which is absolutely constitutionally in violation of the Constitution by this man in the White House. And if that continues, then again you're going to see more and more onslaught into this country with more and more illegals gaining legality, and they're not going to stop. They're going to continue to pour across those borders as they are right now. Today, they're pouring across the border by the thousands. The estimates are somewhere between 500,000 and 700,000 are still coming across the borders illegally every year now. That's by FAIR, Federation for American Immigration Reform. So as long as the American people sit back and watch this happen, then they're going to sit back and watch the destruction of their own culture, their own language, their own way of life, as these illegals from every country in the world pour into our country, turning into a giant polyglot. And again, we're becoming a holding pen for multiculturalism, and we know that's not working anywhere in Europe, and it's certainly not working in Canada, and it's certainly not working here.
You know, Frosty, I really am irate about this, the naivete of America today. I mean, the great-uncles and the great-aunts and the grandmas and grandpas and 3 brother-in-laws twice removed are able now to come, according to the extended family with the amnesty with Obama, and we're paying the bill. You and I are paying the bill. But the thing that bothers me the most is going back again to vote. If they get a Social Security number and they also get a driver's license, they're going to go to the polls and they are going to nullify your vote and my vote as illegal aliens versus qualified citizens of this country.
That's correct. That is actually happening right now as we speak. Here in Denver, they've got they have the ability. They've jammed up. They literally are by the tens of thousands are jamming up. And it was on the front page of the Denver Post this last weekend. We can't get in. We can't even get our own people driver's licenses because of all the illegals that are getting driver's licenses. And as they push their way into our systems, and they start getting more and more food stamps, and they get more and more free medical, and they get more and more of the educational free lunches and free breakfasts for their kids, and they eat and they give and live off of Section 8 housing. You and I are paying for that. And what's amazing to me that most Americans are just sitting back and watching it happen. Same thing over in Europe. In Sweden, they're just watching it happen. And in Norway, they're watching it happen. And in fact, they're so afraid now in France and the United Kingdom that they just keep watching it happen. It's astounding to me, whomever is in charge of this massive invasion, this legal immigration that's coming into our country, they must be sitting there wondering what are their kids going to do, because there's literally no place to run out of our own country, because we're simply going to keep, even if you run to Canada, it's becoming so multicultural that nobody knows if anybody's a Canadian anymore. They're just simply a multicultural polyglot, and the poverty and the crime and the cultural conflicts are just extraordinary. And yet, again, Canadians sit back and watch, and Americans sit back and watch, and you and I keep talking about it. And again, I hope everybody joins CAPS, CAPSWEB.org. That's Californians for Population Stabilization with the Joanne Weidman, and certainly NumbersUSA.org. If you have any hope of ever stopping mass immigration into this country, those organizations are the only way to empower yourself. Over almost 3 million members now in those organizations. And that, to me, is the biggest thing I can bring the radio show each week, is to urge you to join the organizations and empower yourself. It's free, it's powerful, it's collective, it's you, an American, and that's the key here.
You know, Frosty, I want to kind of jump to another subject, but basically it's centered in the same cesspool, if you will. When I looked at the weekend's news review on what ISIS had done in beheading now 21 Coptic Christians and putting it on a video, and the beheadings, the burnings, the shooting people, the burying them alive, are we so far gone as a civilization, regardless of the country, that we can't get up in arms and absolutely form coalitions to rid the world of this vermin? I mean, my goodness, it's almost becoming commonplace every day, Frosty.
That's correct, and amazingly, the European continent, and even Australia, where you've had the killings go on and the beheadings and all that goes with that. You've got the beheadings there in Canada. Certainly the chopping people's heads off right there down the main street in the United Kingdom, London, England.
Yeah.
They're on the march. Muslims are on the march across the globe. Here is the Muslim Brotherhood just issued this statement. I'm quoting this. It's a short one. It is incumbent upon everyone to be aware that we are in the process of a new phase where we summon what is latent in our strength, where we recall the meanings of jihad and prepare ourselves, our wives, our sons, our daughters, and whoever marched on our path to a long, uncompromising jihad. During this stage, we ask for martyrdom, unquote. That's got to chill anybody and everybody. Folks, we've got 7 million Muslims in this country, and they all follow the Quran. You know, if you don't follow the Quran, you're liable to be killed. If you withdraw from Islam, you are liable for being killed. This is a deadly religion. And as I wrote this latest column, there's also, when you go to newswithviews.com tomorrow, where it'll be posted, there's a 10-minute video on Muslim atrocities in America. And these Muslim women talk about how their bodies have been desecrated with female genital mutilation, how they suffer honor killings. It's just a 10-minute video, but it's extraordinary. This is going on in America. This is in our country where we have let Muslim dominance now start bequeathing Sharia law upon us. Tens of thousands of cases of female genital mutilation. This is a violation of women's rights. It's a violation of human rights, and yet it's now going on here in America. And virtually no one's talking or speaking up against it. You'll never hear it from the Good Morning America. You certainly won't hear it from the Today Show. You won't hear it from Charlie Rose there on the CBS Morning Show. You won't hear it from any of the evening anchors. I mean, our country is being deformed into a violent consequence of this Islamic jihad, and you don't hear anything about it.
Let me ask you this.
I am absolutely exasperated.
Let me ask you this question, and let me give a little preface to it first. ISIS has made the statement and direct reference that they are going to take over Rome, Italy, and they're only 500 miles away from what they did in Libya. Now, that being said, if you were president today, what does this man need to do? What needs to be done with his cabinet? What needs to be done with Congress? What needs to be done that's not being done, not only to protect America, but also the world and our allies?
If I were president of the United States right now, I'd stop all Muslim immigration into this country, and anyone and everyone and every mosque would be monitored to the full extent of being monitoring a foreign force, a foreign army in our country. Personally, if I had my way, I'd like to start paying Muslims to leave the country, go back to their own country, and find their way of life back there in their own countries. Because the final force of Muslim and the Quran is to convert or kill all non-believers. And that's one of the big things I would do right now. I would stop all immigration coming into this country. We don't need another single immigrant in our country. We don't want them in this country. We don't need them in this country. We can't afford them in this country. As far as the violence of Islam around the world, I would just take care of America first. And then, past that, we've got a big enough problem in our own country with Islam, and certainly with unbelievable violent immigrants. The Mexicans are tearing up our system right now. The illegality that's going on, you name it. That would be my first thing as President of the United States. Just stop all immigration into America.
All right. Now,
and absolutely start monitoring all mosques and really lock down on Muslims in this country. Moderate or radical, doesn't make any difference. They're all the same.
And I seem like a dog chasing its tail here this morning, but I'll say the same thing I said last hour, and I said it with you when I began the program. What about our borders? I mean, what is there so hard? Please help me on this. What is there so hard to understand that we need to shut and lock down our borders? Frosty, I don't understand why the politicians, don't understand.
Well, I know why they understand. They do understand. But again, you have to understand. And as President of the United States, I'd have the borders locked down with the U.S. Army, and absolutely the U.S. Army would be on the borders from Brownsville, Texas, all the way to San Diego, California. I would have soldiers across. I would have listening posts and set up posts every mile, a mile apart, with every kind of listening device, every kind of visual device. I would stop the drug trade. I would stop illegal aliens literally within 30 days, because I would marshal our army to go onto our border and do that exact securing of the borders immediately. It would be no different than the 50 years we've been on the southern border of North Korea. and I would stop illegal immigration, period, dead in its tracks. But you have to understand how many, the majority of our congressmen and our congresswomen and our senators simply are not going to do anything like that because there's too much money being made and they're being paid off by massive corporations who are absolutely in control of our country right now, and that literally we have the best Congress that money can buy, and that's why this is going on. And this president right now is not the president of the United States. He is literally an insurgent himself because he is totally in violation of the U.S. Constitution, and he is not carrying out the mandates of the Constitution. Certainly Article 4, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution, he has not done anything to secure our borders in the last 6 years, and that's why it just gets worse, and then it gets worse upon that, and we're going to find it to get worse beyond that as the next 2 years goes by.
Well, that being said, though, you and I go right back to where the dog is chasing its tail again. You are talking to your senators, your congressmen, etc. I talk to mine. I ask them, hey, what needs to be done? Why can't we get it done? Form coalitions of power with other congressmen and other senators and make a power play on this administration. I'm beginning to think that nobody cares anymore.
That's pretty much exactly right, Zeb. Pretty much the average American citizen is just going to work every day, trying to keep ahead of the bills, trying to keep their kids in school, trying to keep some semblance of their lives intact. And unfortunately, their own country is really fracturing and fragmenting. Again, the Congress imports 100,000 legal immigrants every 30 days. Those people have to live off the welfare and the Section 8 housing and get stuck into, again, more holding pens. There's 100,000 Somalian immigrants now in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. We've got Detroit with, 400,000 Muslim immigrants in that city. They're all on welfare. The American people are just literally getting besieged from all points of view, and they don't even know where to turn anymore. That's why I could say I give you those three fantastic websites, capsweb.org and numbersusa.org and FAIR, FAIRUS.org, to collectively empower yourself. Otherwise, again, we're going to watch this country turn into the same thing that's happening in Canada and certainly in Europe and Australia right now.
And
that's the sad reality that we're facing.
I just only have got about a minute and a half left, but I want you to elaborate a little bit. I don't know what is the matter with either party and our representatives by not understanding that we as an economy right now can't afford this because there will not be jobs enough for these people, or we're going to have a major source of unemployment. We can't keep adding to the welfare rolls to keep giving.
No, we can't. And again, ladies and gentlemen, every person listening here, Zeb and I have our fingers on the pulse of this thing. We're adding 100,000 legal immigrants every 30 days. That's 1.2 million per year. They then have 900,000 children on average. That's 2.1 million more added to the country. These people are coming from Somalia, from Sudan, from Ethiopia, from Mexico, from Central America, El Salvador, from all these poor countries in the world, and they have no skills, no ability to speak in English. They have no understanding of the ethos. They all go on welfare. We got almost 49 million now on welfare food stamp program. Zeb, it's just going to get worse because the American people and the Congress is absolutely instigating this. It's supporting this. It's facilitating this. And in fact, I'm going down to see Cory Gardner, my senator, and of course Bennett again in the next week. I've actually got 2 meetings with them to spell it for them. But I'll go in there and give my presentation, and then they'll say, well, that's very nice, Mr. Thank you very much, and we're glad you came down here. And guess what? They will do nothing. So that's we're voting these people back into office, and we're getting exactly what we voted into office. That's nothing, and it's going to continue until there is a huge outbreak of consequences across this country. Then it will probably be too late because the beast will be in our belly, and there's no way to. We can't get rid of 7 million Muslims because they're already here. They're established, and there's no way to get rid of all the Mexican illegal aliens that have come here because they're established, and then we're just going to pay for it in the kinds of violence and the kinds of poverty and the loss of our standard of living and quality of life and our jobs. And African Americans are going to get even worse off in their situation because they can't get a job to compete with all these, illegal aliens and legal immigrants that are coming into the country. That's our fate right now unless Americans start banding together and, again, empower themselves by joining the websites that I talk about.
I agree. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado. Dear friend, thank you for being on the program this morning, Frosty, and I'll look forward to next Monday. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Zeb, and God bless America.
Thank you. Very, very good friend and knowledgeable friend, Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. Thank you very much. I apologize. Got a little bit of a sore, weak throat here this morning, so we'll stumble through. Don't forget, let's ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Heyburn. Oh, my goodness, that is where the fun is sold. Yes, rebates on dirt bikes. Right now, great time to buy. And don't forget to, now is a perfect time to load those four-wheelers up. Take them over there to Let's Ride, have them serviced, and be ready for all the fun this spring. My goodness, right now the weather's great. Don't forget, stop over and get those taken care of right now. Great service department. Brad and the rest of the crew serving you at Let's Ride. And also, they've got all the accessories on sale. So stop in and check it out at Let's Ride between Rupert and Heyburn, where the fun is sold. And the number to call, 436-4771. Real quick, we also want to remind you about our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. They're also on Highway 24 over there in Rupert. And, of course, the very best of life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens, dedicated and responsive to your needs. Don't forget, all you have to do is give them a call, make an appointment, and they'll go over your insurance program, make sure that you're covered. 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really good people. Let's go to the phone line right now, and I hope she'll bear with me with my scratchy throat. And we have Carrie Kupek with Alliance Defending Freedom. She's the Legal Communications Director. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dad. How about yourself? What's going on with your throat?
Oh, I don't know, just a little bug going around, I guess, but I'm so honored to have you back on the program this morning. Carrie, from our past conversations, as you know, I am definitely not a fan of Planned Parenthood. And then you sent me a notice. Oh, my goodness. You sent me a notice to where the state of Colorado is using $14 million of taxpayer funds going to abortions and Planned Parenthood. Tell us a little bit more about that story.
Sure. So Colorado bureaucrats should not be using taxpayer dollars to pay for abortions, especially when the Colorado Constitution prohibits it. And just to give you a little history on that, so in 1984, Colorado voters approved the Abortion Funding Prohibition Amendment. And they even later on rejected an initiative to repeal it. So that's been on the books for the last, 20, 30 years. In 2000, between 2000 and 2004, a woman named Jane Norton was the director of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And she became concerned that Planned Parenthood in Colorado was violating this amendment and that they were using taxpayer funds to pay for abortions. So she asked for an audit to be conducted. It was an independent audit of Planned Parenthood there. And what they found was that this subgroup called Rocky Mountain, they actually, what they would do is they're the ones who actually provide the abortion services per se, but what they were doing is they were setting up camps within the Planned Parenthood offices. So this audit found that this group was renting space within Planned Parenthood for a much reduced cost. They were using personnel, administrative services of Planned Parenthood, not paying the fair market value. They were using equipment, et cetera, and all kinds of stuff to help further their abortion services, but they were not paying the going rate for it. So essentially what that is that's an indirect subsidy, right, of abortion services that's coming from taxpayer dollars. So the director of the public health department said that this was a no-go, and she told Planned Parenthood, look, if you want to keep doing this, you're going to have to kick Rocky Mountain out because taxpayer money can't be used to subsidize what they're doing, and that's what's going on. Well, Planned Parenthood refused. Well, since then, a lawsuit ensued, and then what ended up happening, unfortunately, is that the trial court said that no specific abortion service was proven to be state-funded, and so they dismissed the lawsuit. So we have since appealed. We're representing the director, the former executive director of the Department of Public Health, and we're appealing this to the Colorado Court of Appeals saying, hey, look, don't forget what the amendment says. It says directly or indirect, and this audit clearly proves that taxpayer money was indirectly subsidizing the abortion services of this Rocky Mountain group.
Let me ask you this, Carrie, as I sat and listened to you, now, is there more than $14 million involved, and is there a chance to recoup the money in a lawsuit and also recoup the interest on that money?
That's a great question, and it'd be interesting to see what the Colorado Court of Appeals said for that as far as the remedy. But I think what the number was $14 million, but the trial court said that's okay, but completely ignoring the language of the statute and the findings of this independent audit that was conducted. And it's really it's really a problem for two reasons. One, no one should be forced to pay for the abortions of other people, plain and simple.
Yep.
But two, on top of that, the people of Colorado actually codified that sentiment into a constitutional amendment in 1984. And so they went to the ballot box, exercised their constitutionally protected rights, and said, hey, look, we don't want our tax money being used to pay for abortions. So the fact that this audit found that, yes, indeed, their taxpayer money is being used to subsidize these abortions, and the trial court just ignored that and dismissed it, is a real problem. So we'll see what the Colorado Court of Appeals says about all this.
Let me ask you this question, and probably I should know this, but how did they get away with this in the first place? If the people of Colorado voted against funding abortions either directly or indirectly, as you said in the news media release, why did they and how did they manage to try to sneak this thing through?
So Planned Parenthood has an unbelievable amount of power in this country, and they are an abortion giant. And they're a tremendous special interest group with tons of lobbying power, and it's incredible what they do get away with on a daily basis. I've been on your show before talking about the reports that we've issued that shows the waste, the abuse, and the potential fraud that they commit year after year, and yet the power that they wield in Washington and then also, among these state legislatures, I think is really what allows them to get away with this unbelievable misuse and abuse of taxpayer funds.
When you look at an administration that openly has been very supportive of Planned Parenthood, i.e. the President Barack Obama himself, what are we going to do? I mean, and then, heaven forbid, if Hillary Clinton wins in 2016, I mean, the handwriting's on the wall. It doesn't seem like we're going to get anybody that's friendly to families and against abortions.
I think it's important to remain vigilant. So, for instance, with this, we're fighting this out in court, and we're saying, look at the law. Look at what the people of Colorado have voted to do. You cannot use taxpayer money in this way. And what has been encouraging is that there have been a number of Planned Parenthood clinics that have been shut down across the states, and we're seeing an increasing amount of that because of not just their rape, their abuse, their possible frauds they're committing all the time, but also all kinds of issues with girls and underage girls, not encouraging them to report rape and criminal violations. And so because of this, and these have continued to come out, and I think it's as a result of people remaining vigilant, calling their local representatives, there's a definite public outcry that's been strong enough to sustain this, hey, Planned Parenthood, we do not approve of what you're doing with our money, and we do not approve how you exploit women.
The next story that I want to get into in our time this morning is basically, to give a synopsis, it's about a European court vindicating a Bulgarian woman that was unjustly arrested for private worship meetings in her home. I mean, my goodness, what happens over in Europe very soon seems to happen here. Give us an update on this story, please.
Yeah, this is certainly an interesting one, and like you said, if the government can punish people for their faith and manner of worship, we're in big trouble. Fortunately, I have some good news to report with the European Court of Human Rights that said, no, you can't do that. And the background of this story was that in the 90s, there's a woman in Bulgaria three groups in Bulgaria wanted to register churches, and they're part of this Word of Life religious organization that's based in Sweden. And the Bulgarian government said no, for various reasons. They wouldn't let them register their church. So what they did was they started meeting within their homes. Well, the Bulgarian officials and the police actually ended up breaking into one woman's home without a warrant, confiscated her religious materials. These were videos, sermons, brochures, you name it, and then arrested her for conducting these private worship services. And there was all kinds of procedural things that happened subsequently, and they ended up returning a bunch of the materials, but they wouldn't give her damages, and they really wouldn't acknowledge what they had done. And clearly this is a gross human rights abuse. If the police can storm your home for essentially, conducting a Bible study, that is very scary stuff. So anyway, 20 years go by, and this lawsuit continues, and just recently, the European Court of Human Rights, they ruled that actually the Bulgarian authorities had violated this Christian woman's freedom of thought, her freedom of conscience, and her freedom of religion. And they also found the government had violated her right to a remedy of the situation. And they found that the state of Bulgaria had 100% acted with discrimination towards her worship, towards her religion. There was no evidence upon which they could have done what they did. And this is a clear problem when you're dealing with a democratic society. This is just not acceptable.
Let me ask you, though, I'm fairly naive about this story, but when you talk about this woman having the printed materials in her home and inviting people over for a Bible study, who cares? I mean, why should the government care about that? What laws do they say were transgressed upon, and why did they want to arrest her for this in the first place?
Right, that's a great question. And what the court found was that Bulgaria and the harassment of this woman, essentially what they were doing was intimidating her from doing this again, intimidating her from worship, intimidating her from, basically making her think twice before ever, doing something as, quote unquote terrible, hosting a Bible study in her home again. And they were clearly discriminating against, her religious practices, and that's very scary. That has no place in a democratic society, which is what this court found. The court actually said things that the action of the state authorities failed to respect the need for true religious pluralism, which is inherent in the concept of a democratic society. The search and seizure measures against the applicant were not taken in the framework of a criminal investigation and were therefore unlawful under domestic law. So the court was very clear in its language. It was evident what the Bulgarian police were doing as to why they were targeting this woman and her Bible study. It's hard to say, but it certainly sent a very scary message to anyone who wanted to do what this woman was doing.
Yeah, but Carrie, while you were talking, it was brought to mind that basically we think over in Bulgaria, over in Europe, well, fortunately it hasn't happened here, but yet I recall vividly having lawyers on with ADF, and I think you also, talking about Gilbert, Arizona, and a town in California where this has happened, to where they wanted to try to stop private Bible study in private homes here in America.
Right. It's always a very concerning, to say the least, situation when the government can, trample into someone's home, confiscate their religious materials, and arrest them. I mean, that's frightening, and we can think of all kinds of historical events where that has happened, and we know it hasn't ended well for the people who are living within those kinds of regimes. I think the encouraging thing is that although Bulgaria clearly did something very troubling here, the fact that the European Court of Human Rights has jurisdiction over a number of Western European and Eastern countries said, absolutely not, this does not fit in a democratic society. There is something to be said as far as that's encouraging, but yes, we always have to remain vigilant for exactly what you just pointed out.
Let me ask you this, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it's a question that needs to be asked. When it comes to Christianity or Judaism, and it seems like the hammer is down on those religions in this country, but yet on the other hand, if they're practicing Islam, nobody is wanting to try to say anything negative or try to do anything negative. Why are Christians and Jews such an easy target?
It's a great question, and it's one I've been thinking at myself lately, especially when we see the horrors that are being committed in the name of Islam across the world right now. I think that, unfortunately, Christians are not willing to take tough stands on things, and as a result are often trampled over. They're afraid, they're bullied, they're intimidated, and therefore they don't speak up when they need to be speaking up. And the thing that we love about this country is that we can worship freely. We can act according to our religious beliefs, but we have to be able to stand up for those truths in our daily lives, even when it costs us something, or those quickly will disappear. I think that Christians often become apathetic, and they don't realize what's at stake, and they don't realize that the part they have to play, even within their own communities. So it's important to remain vigilant at all times and never take these things for granted.
Absolutely. Carrie, quickly tell us, if you would please, how my listeners can follow this story and other stories with the Alliance Defending Freedom.
They can go to alliancedefendingfreedom.org, and if they want to take a look at the legal documents and some of the press releases, they can go to adfmedia.org.
God bless you, Carrie Kupek. I really appreciate all the time and effort you put into coming on our program every week. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to next Monday.
Thanks, Ed.
God bless. Thank you very, very much. Wonderful lady right there, and I really appreciate her coming on the air on behalf of the Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you very much. Time for the weather, and the weather this hour is brought to you by Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome, and write this number down, 324-2004. That number again, 324-2004. Urgent Care of Jerome, minor emergencies, major care. They will see you today. They treat everyday injuries and illnesses, ear infections, sprains, strains, and fractures, injuries due to accidents. You just give them a call and stop over there, and they'll take care of you at Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. Again, that number, 324-2004. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Going to be a beautiful day, sunny skies. Looking at a high right near 50. It's just a little bit breezy right now, but winds will be picking up this afternoon to about 10 miles an hour out of the northeast tonight. Looks like clear skies. Wind's going to be dying down. Low of 26 tomorrow. Sunny and 51, and currently 36 degrees here at KBAR Studios.
A little bit chillier out there this morning. And don't forget to Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. Here's the number to remember, 324-2004. Minor emergencies, major care. They will see you today. Oh, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I got a question for Gina this morning, and maybe she can help me out for this last half hour of kind of a sore throat that's acting up a little bit. Gina, what do you think about your tax dollars paying for Bradley Manning to become Chelsea Manning, and paying for the hormone therapy, and at the same time the Army is going to pay for that hormone therapy? The VA is not able to take care of other veterans that are coming back from overseas.
This is kind of like what we talked about earlier, you know, how illegal aliens are coming across the borders to get this hormone therapy. Of course, I'm totally against it. I think that I'm just against it. No, I don't want my taxpayers going towards it. If you really want it, you pay for yourself out of your hard-earned money and not mine that I'm giving to the government, which, you know, I'm up in arms about anyway. But I'm not cool with that at all.
At a time when the VA is being severely scrutinized, and needfully so, as they're not being able to take care of our vets that are coming home, I forgot the number, but it's atrocious, and it brings a tear to my eye. I think that, what is it, and correct me if I'm wrong on this statistic, but I believe there are something like 20 of our veterans that come home every day that commit suicide. Every day?
Yeah, it is. It's true. And we are sending our men and women overseas to fight for our ideals, and yet when they come home, we're not taking care of them.
And we're going to take money away from somebody that might need treatment for PTSD or whatever it might be, and give the money to someone like this absolute fruitcake, a transgenderer that wants to change the gender, and take good money and give it to it?
Yeah, there needs to be a complete revision of the morals and the standards and the way we treat our soldiers when they come home. I mean, it needs to be completely reevaluated and revamped, because the way we are treating our soldiers is atrocious.
Why do they go to the back of the line? I'm so upset about this, Gina, because many of my friends that went to Nam, and then, of course, all the current problems around the world, and our vets come home, and they put their lives on the line, and then they come home and they have to stand in the back of the line like they're second-class citizens.
I'm sorry. I think, and maybe I'm stepping out of bounds when I say this, but maybe the congressmen and women who we elected, maybe we should switch everything around, where our vets and our current combat soldiers, they get all of the benefits that our congressional members do, and then the congressional members, they get all of the benefits that our current military and veterans get. And I honestly think that then the shoe is on the other foot, and that's what I think really needs to happen.
And this guy, or this I got to finish this thought, though. Caller, stay with me. I'll be right there. But this Bradley Manning that now wants to be a woman and called Chelsea Manning, he was the guy that sold national security secrets, and we're going to give him taxpayer dollars to change his sex?
Well, if he sold national security secrets, I'm sure he has enough in his bank account to pay for it himself.
He is a convicted traitor.
Yeah. And we're going to pay for this? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just so mad about this. My blood pressure's through the roof again, and I promised the doctor I'd keep it down. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I'm back, Friday, I called both our senators, and I told them I hadn't seen any change at all since they took control of the Senate. And I told them a bunch of other things. And, I'd like to see a bunch of the other people listen to your talk show to call in to them. It don't take much money to make a phone call.
I agree.
But it takes more than one person to get their attention.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
I told them to call your talk show.
Good.
They don't listen to one person, but if they had 10, 15 call in, they listen.
I agree with you. And Fred, I thank you so much for that. You have always been a real patriot that takes the time and the effort to stand up for the issues that need standing up for. Real quick, give me a short answer on this, because I've got a commercial. What do you think about using taxpayer dollars through the United States Army to pay for a sex change for a convicted traitor?
I don't want to use my dollars.
Okay. Fred, thank you so much. God bless you, my dear friend. Good to hear from you. Thank you.
You bet.
When I was listening to this story, and then I read it in the paper, the national security secrets that were sold by Bradley Manning as a soldier in the United States Army, and now he wants to change and have the hormone shots and everything to become Chelsea Manning. He's a convicted traitor to this country, and our taxpayer dollars through the Army are going to go and take care of this hormone therapy? Gina, you got to calm me down. Throw a bucket of water on me or something. I'm so mad. I can't imagine this country being this stupid.
I can't imagine our country being this stupid. However, apparently we are, and apparently our congressmen and women and people out there are being duped, and they're just willing to pay for anything and everything. And I'm sorry, we need to stand up. We need to stop this. Call Crapo, call Raul Lafleur, call whoever that you need to, and say, you know what? this is not right, and I'm not willing to pay for this, and if you don't stop this, well, then you're not going to be reelected the next session, period, point blank.
And here's I don't know if you got the story in front of you, but I pulled this one out of I can't remember which paper it was in, either the Wall Street Journal or the USA Today, but here's one sentence that really bothers me. Manning sued the federal government for the treatment. You know what it should have happened at that point? They should have thrown the lawsuit out of court. Here is a convicted traitor. He's serving up to a minimum of 35 years for selling secrets, and we, the taxpayers, are going to give the gratuity through our tax dollars to change him from a male to a female? You've got to be kidding me.
Okay, and you just brought up something, and this is kind of off topic, but on topic. So he's wanting to do this therapy to become a woman, so why? He could go to a women's prison and have it easier?
I can't answer that because I wouldn't dare even assume what is going on in the mind of this complete weirdo. Yeah. But why should we, the United States, and taxpayers, and we've had Pete Sepp on this program, the president of the National Taxpayers Union, and Pete is outraged. I'm going to try to call him after this program and get him scheduled to come on the air. He is outraged over this idiocy that our government is falling in lockstep and giving in to these crackpots.
Why? And here's my question: Why is our elected officials giving into this? Is it all for political correctness so they can get that extra vote? What is the reason behind this? Because obviously, if you go out and you actually poll the general populace, they will be against this because this is a gross misuse of our tax dollars.
I don't care if this guy wants to become a giraffe and wants to take hormone shots to have a longer neck so he looks better in a necktie. I don't care. I'm not going to pay for it. I think it's absolute lunacy.
No, for anybody, okay, and I'm just going to kind of blanket this. For anybody that is in our penal system that does not need absolute, they only get what they absolutely need, i.e. medical care, i.e. dental care. They only get what they absolutely need. For those that are coming across our borders, I'm sorry, you're not going to get a dime of my tax dollar. You can go back across the border and enter our country legally, and then I might change my mind. But other than that, our government seriously needs a revamp because this tax structure and just what they're doing with our tax dollars, they're just throwing it away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When we have things right here at home that need to be addressed. We have vets that need to be taken care of. We have a failing infrastructure, and this is what they're going to pay use our tax dollars for. I'm not happy with it at all.
If you get a chance, pull up the story. I just confirmed it was in USA Today, and the picture on the front of this news story, I think it was in last Friday's paper. Just look at that picture, and it's enough to just turn your stomach, let me tell you. Okay. Anyway, I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you very much. The whole world is messed up. We need to get back to the basics with black and white, right and wrong. Paying for hormone therapy for a convicted traitor. Are you kidding me? Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center at 2303 Park Avenue in Burley, 677-3073. You know, it's time for you to get the care you need, and when you're in their hands, you can rest assured you're getting the best there is. They were recently awarded a 5-star rating from the government, the highest rating awarded to skilled nursing facilities. That's right, Parkview Care and Rehabilitation Center is a nursing home. It provides medical nursing service for seniors with serious illnesses or disabilities 24 hours a day. Don't forget, they never forget that you're their valued guest and the reason they're there to serve you. Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center, 2303 Park Avenue in Burley. The number to call, 677-3073. Oh, my old throat acting up a little bit today. But coming up next hour, I don't want you to miss this interview with James Taylor. He is a specially talented individual with the Heartland Institute back in Chicago that absolutely has stood toe-to-toe with all the wacko environmentalists that are claiming global warming and climate change and everything. I'm very honored to have him on my show next hour at 10:06. Then at 10:30, Representative Fred Wood will be on our legislative update, so don't miss that. Zeb at the Ranch, I'll be back in 6. Welcome back. Hour number 3. Zeb at the Ranch. Good morning, good morning. And we want to say thank you very much to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. And, of course, some of our great advertisers that include Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Be sure and get on the route service today. Call them. Locally owned and operated, serving you 734-6969. Real quick, before we get our guest on the program, I want to remind you about the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, boy, they had a jam-up, really good Valentine's Day special. A lot of people over there. Don't forget that they've got a special today called Chicken and Bacon Pitas. Oh, boy, they are good. With choice of potato and super salad, just $8.95. Once again, that's at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Today, chicken and bacon pitas, along with the great menu items and super service at the Chadwick. Also want to remind you that every Thursday on Zeb at the Ranch, we have a segment for Cassia County School Days. And our thanks go out to A Child's World at 1308 Overland, always with everything you need for the young ones, everything you need for baby, all the games, all the toys, all the puzzles, all the clothing, everything right there at A Child's World, including all the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs, too. So you be sure and stop in at 1308 Overland in Burley, A Child's World. And also co-sponsoring the segment is Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland at telephone number 677-8888. I mentioned to you last week that they have one of the most established and well-known foot surgeons in the Northwest seeing patients over there for your foot problems. Dr. Michael Coughlin at Ambulatory Surgery Center, 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Right now, with my sore throat and my raspy voice, we're going to go to the phone lines, and I get a chance to visit again with a gentleman that I have a lot of respect for. I've had him on my show numerous times in the past with the Heartland Institute, Dr. James Taylor. Good morning, James. How are you this morning?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Well, it is purely my pleasure because I wanted someone with your caliber that's very knowledgeable as to what's going on or not happening in trying to fight the climate change folks around the globe. I read a newspaper article, excuse me for choking in your ear this morning, a little bit of a cold. I read a newspaper article last week, James, that scared me to death. And it seems like the climate change people are going to resort to climate engineering, possibly with carbon dioxide that would block the sun's rays and try to drop the planet's temperature. We are playing God at this point, and I'm very afraid as to what's going to happen. Are my fears worthwhile, or do you think I'm making much ado about nothing?
Well, if the global warming alarmists were to embark on such a program any time in the near future, your fears would be founded. Keep in mind that just in the 1970s, they were talking very seriously about painting all the rooftops black to absorb more sunlight and to warm the planet because of the impending next ice age epoch. So these climate cycles come and go. And it's also worth noting that in a survey of more than 500 climate scientists, well, one of the questions that they asked, and this was conducted by Germany's Institute of Coastal Research, and one of the questions they asked over 500 climate scientists worldwide, if we're going to have any serious climate-related catastrophes or negative side effects, will we have time to prepare in advance? And the majority said, yes, we will. But there's no need to rush into this, lemmings jumping off a cliff type mindset that we see from the global warming alarmists.
James, this thing is getting more insidious all the time, I feel. Obama saying, and many of his cabinet members have said that, oh my goodness, climate change is more dangerous than ISIS. My goodness, James, here we're looking at people being beheaded. We're looking at children being shot and put in mass graves. We're seeing people burned in cages, and this administration says that climate change is more insidious than dangerous than ISIS. What is the matter with these people?
Yeah, there's quite an irony going on here, that in the sense that Susan Rice, Obama's foreign policy advisor here,
said over the weekend that we need to guard against alarmism regarding terrorism, and yet they are so full-throated, gung-ho about alarmism for climate. You know, what we have going on in the world today, we have Russia that is aggressive and seemingly out of control with their aggression in Ukraine, first the Crimean Peninsula, now Ukraine. We have ISIS and ISIL taking over large portions of multiple countries. And as you say, burning people in cages, beheading them. We have in Iraq all the games, the years of war. And keep in mind that just a few years ago, not only had we removed the butcher Saddam Hussein from power, we'd set up a nation that was at least on the path towards stability, and now they're being overrun by ISIL. We have Egypt that is now cozying up to Russia because the Obama administration turned them away. We have the world as a whole becoming more and more distrustful of the United States. And then here we have the Obama administration downplaying all these, making a point to say that we can't be alarmist about terrorism. The reset button with Russia didn't work, but we really shouldn't pay too much attention there. That's not our problem. But global warming is this crisis that we must motivate all of our resources to fight, when all global warming has brought us so far beneficial results. We have crop yields that are setting records every year. We have fewer hurricanes, fewer tornadoes. We have forests expanding. We have deserts shrinking. It just seems bizarre that the Obama administration is going to neglect all of these global crises, many of which they brought on themselves. Others have gained a strength under their watch, and yet tell the world, we really don't care about that because we're more concerned about global warming.
James, you do not have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that with cooling temperatures, whether they're going to do it with crystals or whatever method, we don't know by playing God what they're going to do to destroy the crops and growth of crops around the world to feed the hungry. We don't know what they're going to do to climate. We have no idea what they're going to do as far as how it's going to endanger our temperatures to the point where we might be living in an ice age forever. I mean, these people are scaring me. How nervous are you about these fanatics that are going to the Obama administration and begging for a climate change?
Well, I'm very concerned because what they propose to do is make energy essentially obsolete. To ration energy, well, first of all, to make the energy we have unaffordable, too expensive for most people to use, and what little energy people can afford to ration it and basically make it obsolete. We can't use coal, we can't use natural gas, we can't use nuclear power, we can't use hydropower. All that leaves is wind power and solar power, which are prohibitively expensive, unreliable, dependent on variances in when the wind blows and when it doesn't. Solar power only works at night, only works in the day, cannot work at night. And then even the local environmental activist groups oppose wind and solar power because of all the transmission lines that must be built to bring the power into the cities, because of the negative impacts of those as well. And this is something that's not an accidental side effect. This is what they're looking to do. This is a central component of their policy, is to basically run energy out of existence. And that brings us back to a world that existed 150, 200 years ago, when people's lifespans were about half of what they are today, when people didn't have the electricity that's necessary, not just to power all the creature comforts that we enjoy in life, but the necessities of life, to power hospitals, to power schools, etc. This frightens me very much more so than what they claim is going to happen as a result of global warming.
You know, James, you study this and you are an expert, and that's why I wanted you on the program. And I'm going to ask you a very simplistic question. When you talk to these people, these global warming or climate change alarmists, what do they want? I mean, I'm not trying to be really funny when I say this, but what do they want? Do they want the temperature down 7 degrees? Do they want it down 10 degrees? What do they want for a mean temperature that would satisfy them?
So really what they want isn't about climate. It's about taking control of our society. It's about fighting against free markets, free enterprise, fighting against people's ability to use resources. We have resources in this earth, and we call them resources because they're things that we can use to make life better, to produce other things. But they consider using resources as an evil, as something to be fought against. And global warming gives them the convenient mechanism, the excuse to ration these resources, to leave them in the ground, to not utilize them whatsoever, and for people to live a cold, dark, dreary life, but one in which humans will have less impact on the earth. They view human activity, human economic production, human advances in lifespans and welfare as evil. They view more people on the planet as evil. And that's really what the core issue is. It's not so much about climate, because 40 years ago, the same alarmist, John Holdren, for example, President Obama's top science advisor, he wrote papers warning against all the catastrophes that were being brought on by global cooling, which he claimed humans were causing. The same types of things that they're claiming for global warming, they were claiming for global cooling, saying that it was going to increase tornadoes, increase hurricanes, cause deserts to expand, have less crop production, etc. When you look at it, you see it's not really a scientific question. It's just people that want to restrict human activity.
When you mention science, I'm so sick and tired of their age-old argument that, oh my goodness, 97% or 98% of scientists agree that we're burning up. Why? The Earth is just absolutely spinning out of control, getting warmer and warmer. I have right here in my hand, from various colleges and universities, I've got a stack of about 30 different graphs that show there has not been any global warming for at least over 18 years. Why will these people not pay attention to this?
Well, they don't want to pay attention to science. They don't want us to pay attention to the science because it is all about ulterior motives. But whenever you hear people mention this 97% overwhelming consensus, keep in mind something that's very important. To the extent that they've ever conducted any surveys regarding this issue, the only time 97% comes up is when they ask two basic questions, both of which I would answer yes to. One is, have temperatures warmed over the past 100 years? Well, the answer is yes. We're not in the Little Ice Age anymore. That's a good thing. The Little Ice Age ended just over 100 years ago. That was the coldest period we've had over the 10,000 years. The first question is, have temperatures warmed in the past 100 years? Yes. Next question is, have humans played some role in that? Well, I'll answer yes to that, too, because carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. Temperatures haven't risen much, but they've risen a little bit, and we've had some role in that. And not just carbon dioxide, but in terms of land use. If people have cleared forest to build towns and cities, that's going to have an impact, too. So I answer yes to both those questions, and then they say, see, this proves a global warming crisis. No, it proves no such thing. All it's asking is have humans had some impact on climate. They deliberately misrepresent that poll, that survey, in order to lead people to believe that scientists believe humans are creating a global warming crisis. Nearly all the scientists that I work with, that I interact with, who are skeptics, global warming skeptics, answer yes to those questions too. They're misrepresenting the surveys. But what is really important, a few surveys polled that are important. Well, first of all, there's a summary of the science that indicates a 12-page summary documenting how and why global warming is not a crisis. More than 31,000 scientists have found that petition and signed on to it, known as the Oregon Petition. 31,000 is a huge number. Also, I mentioned earlier the Institute of Coastal Research in Germany, how they surveyed more than 500 climate scientists on global warming-related topics. And one of the questions that they asked is, do we have enough evidence right now to turn the issue of global warming over to policymakers? Less than half said yes. So those are two big things to keep in mind. And one final one. The American Meteorological Society, in two separate surveys of the American Meteorological Society meteorologists, but these are people who are atmospheric scientists dealing with climate-related issues, twice they asked them whether they believe humans are causing a global warming crisis. The answer is no. In fact, just over half believe that humans are having a significant impact on climate, whether or not that's a crisis or not. So we have various ways of discerning that scientists do not hold this overwhelming view that humans are causing a global warming crisis, as the alarmists want us to believe.
You said it very succinctly a few moments ago, and it's something that I've said on my program for years, that 7-letter word control, to control the masses and control the populace. But when you have people like Barack Obama and others, including former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, and all these people that are supposedly well-informed and knowledgeable people standing on the bandwagon, how do we, the general public, fight these people? How do we get our voices heard?
Well, it's by doing what you're doing right now, letting people know what's going on. Back 30, 40 years ago, before there was an internet, before there was cable television, when people were reliant on just a few media sources that they could not get outside fact-checking, well, then they'd have a much easier time keeping us in line and proceeding to effectuate their agendas. But now we have talk radio, we have the internet, we have cable television, and these are ways that we can get the truth out. It's also interesting talking about over the weekend, the Obama administration was trying to make the point that in order to fight this danger, this threat that's more severe, more immediate than terrorism, one of the things we need to do is fund the Green Climate Fund. Green Climate Fund, this is real interesting. This is nothing more than a transfer of wealth from the United States and Western democracies to developing nations, to the third world. First of all, that will have nothing to do with our national security. But what it does do is take money from nations like us and give it to nations like Iran and North Korea. Mm-hmm. How is this a way to fight back against the threats posed against the United States by impoverishing us and giving money to our enemies?
I've had you on the program in the past, and I think I'm more concerned about the idiocy and incompetency of this administration more so than ever before, especially in his last 2 years of power. On a scale of 1 to 10, looking at this administration, looking at the Obamas standing up and saying they're more concerned about climate change than they are ISIS, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you right now today?
Well, I'm concerned at about an 8. It would be higher if I thought that they had the political traction to put into effect many of the policies that they would like to do. Keep in mind that when we had a Democrat-controlled House and a Democrat-controlled Senate, still the Obama administration couldn't get enough support for the Waxman-Markey bill, which would have put a cap-and-trade program in place. However, the Obama administration does control the federal branch. There is much that they are doing by way of the EPA and executive orders. That's very frightening. One other thing that's worth noting, I don't want to make this a Republican-Democrat thing. If John McCain had been elected president in 2008, we'd probably have a worse climate regime right now than we have currently. The reason being, John McCain was just as nuts on this topic, and if he were president, he probably would have brought along half the Republicans who wouldn't want to seem to be opposing their party leader. So the Obama administration, I think, is doing a horrible job on this topic, but it could be worse. And we're just going to have to keep fighting so it won't get worse.
You know, James, when we talk about this issue of climate change, global warming, whatever, it seems like the news media in general, the ABC, CBS's, NBC's, etc., have all jumped on Obama's bandwagon, and oh my goodness, they're saying, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Tell me, what can I do? What can I lead? How can I better educate other members of the media? Our own local newspaper has an editor that thinks absolutely we're burning up. I mean, what can we do to better educate these people?
Well, to educate people, you have topics, you have a website such as whatsupwithat.com. You do a Google search for Anthony Watts. You do a Google search for Joseph DeLeo. His is IceCap. A website that, the Heartland Institute website, where we present the science and people can be informed. And then people who are on the air like you are, who are writing columns in newspapers, can point that out. I have a column I write for Forbes.com. I try to do it every week, in which I will present some of the science that calls out the alarmist lies. In fact, the one that's up currently on Forbes.com, you can do a Google search, Taylor, Forbes, global warming, you'll see them. I take apart 10 of the environmental activist global warming myths, showing what the science really says. So those are ways we can make a difference in terms of the media. One thing that everyone listening can do is contact your elected officials, because they are much more swayed by phone calls, letters, emails than you would think. They want to do the right thing, but oftentimes if they're not sure which way to go, they're going to want to make sure that they please their constituents. And the alarmists have their AstroTurf campaign where they keep sending letters, and if they only get one side of the story, then they're more inclined to think, well, I better just go along with what these people are telling me, or I won't get elected again. So let them know that there are people who understand what the science really means.
And what about the Heartland Institute itself? I mean, are you actively engaging people to be involved with the Heartland Institute and find out more information that you folks put out for the general public?
Absolutely. Listeners can go to heartland.org. And we cover a whole realm of issues: energy and environment, which is my specialty, school choice, education, budget and tax, etc. On this particular issue, we're proud to have published the work of hundreds of scientists regarding Climate Change Reconsidered, which is a report of the non-governmental international panel on climate change. There we have, and you can find them for free, linked from our website. You have literally thousands of peer-reviewed studies that show how and why global warming is not a crisis. The summaries are thousands of pages long. When folks talk about how 97% of the literature agrees with us, that's not even close to being true, because we've documented it in Climate Change Reconsidered, which you can find at the heartland.org website.
You are excellent, and I'm very honored to have you on the program. James Taylor with the Heartland Institute back in Chicago. I say this, God's blessings to you, sir, and please come back in the near future. We really appreciate the information.
Well, thank you very much, Zeb. Anytime. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day. Thank you very, very much. Having someone like James on the program, it just adds credibility to the fact that the climate change alarmists, starting right at the top with Barack Obama and going right on down to the bottom, they absolutely do not know anything that they're talking about. And when you read these stories, I got to say this real quickly, but you should just absolutely have the hair stand up on the back of your neck thinking that these climate change people, they want to seed the skies with tiny droplets to block the sun's rays and cool off the planet. We're not God. They are not God. And can you imagine all of a sudden if there is a oops, and maybe major parts of the northern hemisphere are frozen permanently because of this idiocy. Please, folks, don't buy into climate change and global warming. It is absolutely a charlatan, or better yet, a false front building from the Old West. We are going to take a little break in just a moment. I'm going to send it over to our main studios. But before we do that, I also want to remind you, as I get everything put together on my desk, my old friend Gentle Ben is back. My goodness sakes, it's good to have him back on the program. Leslie and Gentle Ben at Burley Glass. My goodness, Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley, working hard to provide great service to all the communities in the Magic Valley. It's nice outside right now, but it's not going to last. So why don't you update your windows before the cold weather comes back? And really consider installing vinyl windows. They can increase the energy efficiency of your home by 2 to 3 times. And spring is coming, and new windows will help keep the cold outside and the heat inside, or vice versa. There you go. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland in Burley, with our dear friend Gentle Ben and Leslie and the crew at 1029 Overland in Burley. Burley Glass. We're going to send this back over to our main studios, and I'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much. We're going to have our legislative update momentarily. Stand by. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, with Nick Greenwell and the whole crew serving you. What a very knowledgeable and efficient staff of physical therapists working with the best of exercises, sports medicine, that hydrotherapy pool, all of this and much more, helping you get back to feeling like you. They know what they're doing, and they can help you. Great options, 98% of their clients from doctor referrals. Please give them a call and make an appointment, 678-1191. That number again, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Well, I always look forward to Mondays. On certain respects, I've got some great segments, and this is one of them. It's our legislative update from our legislature for 2015. And with us this morning is Representative Fred Wood. Good morning, Fred. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm good this morning. Are you?
Nice to have you on the program, my dear friend, and I want to get right into it because I know you're very prepared and have the answers to a lot of questions. I have right here in my hand some information that was sent to me. As a matter of fact, I got about 5 or 6 basically the same thing, and people are worried. They're saying it's getting increasingly difficult. I'm reading from a quote right now. Increasingly difficult for Medicare and Medicaid patients to see a doctor, and the problem may get worse in 2015. Please, that's what I wanted to have you on for this morning and talk about Medicare and Medicaid. Is this really true that it is getting much more difficult for people to see a doctor?
Unfortunately, for those people that are on Medicaid and Medicare, it is. And if I might take a minute or two.
Please.
First of all, everybody needs to understand that Medicare is completely different than Medicaid. Medicare is strictly a federal program for those patients over the age of 65. Medicaid, there are certain populations within the state of Idaho, principally children, pregnant women, that are on Medicaid. The significant amount of the adult population, particularly the ones that are childless, are not eligible for Medicaid in Idaho. Mm-hmm. Idaho strictly follows the federal guidelines, and we don't put anybody on Medicaid that is not required to be on Medicaid by the federal government. Sure. So there's a significant amount of people in Idaho that are not eligible for Medicaid. They're not eligible for Medicare because you have to be 65. Let's take each one separately because it's completely different as to why they're running into a problem. Mm-hmm. In the last 10 to 15 years, maybe even longer, there have been attempts to decrease expenditures in the Medicare program, the federal program for the elderly over the age of 65. And I forget when it was first instituted, but it was a good number of years ago when we were supposed to have savings and reform in Medicare by decreasing the amount of money that we paid to hospitals and physicians with respect to the care that they gave our citizens. And there was a formula that was developed to reduce payments, particularly to physicians. Now, every year, Congress has kicked that can further down the road by saying that, well, we'll delay implementation of those cuts to physicians, and they just do it on an annual basis, and they don't come up with any plan to replace that. Now, the cost of that plan over 10 years, Zeb, is on the order of $250 to $300 billion, and that's with a B. Those cuts are scheduled to go into effect. I think it's the end of March of this year. Mm-hmm. And that's about a 23% across-the-board cut, or roughly in that area, across-the-board cut for physician reimbursement for Medicare fees. So that's the problem you're running into with Medicare, and there are equivalent cuts with respect to hospitals.
All right, now, Fred, I want my audience to understand. I had some calls last week, and then when I was off the air on Thursday, I had some more follow-up phone calls about patients could see as much as a almost 50% reduction in doctors available to see them. Would you explain that a little bit?
Well, if those cuts go into effect, in other words, if starting on the 1st of April, that reimbursement to physicians are going to be cut by that much, I suspect you're going to see a lot of physicians that are going to find it difficult to see Medicare patients because the cost of doing business has simply outstripped the payment from Medicare, and Medicare is the largest
payer in the United States for health care services.
A lot of people...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, right at that juncture, I wanted to interrupt and pardon my rudeness, but a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, but what about the Hippocratic Oath? What about this? What about that? But basically, physicians are a business unto themselves, and if money's not there, they can't afford to stay in business, can they?
That's exactly right, Zeb. You know, when the cost of business outstrips the ability of you to give the business, I mean, you know, as a physician, you've got staff you've got to pay, you've got rent you've got to pay, you've got utilities you have to pay, you have malpractice insurance you have to pay, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's a certain amount of money that you have to bring in on a daily basis to pay the bills. Now, you know, it's different for different practices depending upon what your specialty is, et cetera, and to the mix of Medicare patients that you have. Obviously, pediatricians don't have very many Medicare patients, none essentially. Obstetricians don't have very many, although gynecologists have quite a few. So it really is different with respect to the mix of patients that you have. Secondly, surgical care for Medicare patients is still reimbursed at a reasonable level. It's the primary care, the general internal medicine care, that is not being reimbursed well at all. And that's where the real problem lies, are in those primary care specialties that still take care of a good deal of Medicare patients. Mm-hmm. That's what they're running into. And, you know, we all understand and we all sit around and we all complain about the federal government is broken. I would agree with it.
Right.
But here's one thing that I think everybody should keep in mind. In terms of future liabilities for the United States government, the future liability that's not been paid for in Social Security is $7 trillion. The future liability of the debt is about $17 trillion. But Zeb, the future liability for Medicare is $50 trillion.
Oh my goodness. Insurmountable number.
Everybody likes to talk about the debt.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that the debt is nothing compared to the future liabilities in Medicare. And that's what the federal government is struggling with. They're simply going to have to find savings on an annual basis.
Okay, I want to get...
But if they scrunch down too far, then people will not have access.
Absolutely. I've got a call waiting with a question, and you're on the air with Representative Fred Wood. Go ahead, please.
Why did they do this? Why do they always take away from Medicare and from the seniors?
All right, I'll have him answer that on the air. Fred, if you would, please.
I can take a stab at that, but I could spend all week trying to... You have to go back a long ways to get to the base of what is wrong with the healthcare system. And when it comes to this, it's not just Medicare. We have an unsustainable healthcare system in the United States with respect to costs. And that has to be changed. And we are changing that. The state of Idaho has just been awarded $40 million to transform healthcare in the state of Idaho over the next 4 years. And you're going to see that transformation take place. As a matter of fact, Zeb, we had the presentation from the SHIP committee, which is the Statewide Healthcare Innovation Plan. That grant was given to Idaho, and that presentation was made to the Health and Welfare Committee in the House today. We spent almost 2 hours listening to that presentation, and that is the right way to do it. And more importantly, Zeb, Medicare has never responded or never participated in state innovations to changing health care. Do you know what? Medicare showed up and actually is part of the SHIP committee, and Medicare in the state of Idaho will start taking part in the transformation of the healthcare system. Now, the other thing I think we should recognize is Congress, I don't think, is about to let those cuts take place to the point to where physicians can't maintain their practices. Now, what they are going to do, I don't know. I suspect in the short term, they'll kick the can down the road one more time. But I can tell you, the other thing is that Congressman Simpson, I will be with him Thursday night at an event here in Boise. And that's one of 3 issues about health care that I intend to talk to him, Senator Crapo, and Senator Risch about, with respect to Congress needs to get off its rear end and quit arguing and fighting and start dealing with some of these issues, because they simply can't cut that program that deep, Zeb, or we're going to have our elderly citizens not be able to get health care. And they can't let that happen.
Yeah, but Fred, this is, I'm not looking at any crystal ball, and neither are you. When Obamacare was formulated, and all of a sudden it was thrown up in our face that, yes, you will have this, yes, it's going to be the law of the land, we all had heard rumors about possibly this was really going to affect and hurt the elderly and seniors in our country, and we all heard the rumors about death panels. We all heard the rumors about somebody's going to sit and scrutinize as to whether you should get the care or not, or just go die. This is nothing new, and it's coming to fruition.
Well, yeah, Medicare is not affected by the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act, now, when you start talking about Medicaid, that's a whole different process, because that specifically was what that was about. But Medicare and the issue of the elderly, and particularly the expenditures of health care in the last 6 months of a patient's life, et cetera, has to be dealt with. And, of course, removal of care, et cetera, is not the way to do that. And that we're going to deal with that here in Idaho in the SHIP process, and death panels, et cetera, aren't going to be any part of that. I can guarantee you that. That just simply will not happen. So I would agree with you, Zeb, that we have gotten off on the wrong foot with respect to some of the federal programs that they have instituted without any thought and without any input from the states.
I guess and this sounds really naive on my part, because I don't know an answer to this question, but what is the answer? Here we are, a nation that's going to be looking at, in 2 years' time, $21 trillion in debt or more, and we've got a healthcare system that absolutely is shot full of holes right now. Research is limited, funding for research is limited, funding to take care of various agencies is limited. What is the answer, Fred? What are we going to do to keep some semblance of a healthcare system in this country?
Well, the problem, Zeb, is that we have no system. Okay? We don't have a system. We have a whole bunch of disparate, siloed healthcare entities that go around, and the whole business is about money. And a patient enters the system and then turns out to be nothing more than a ping pong ball bouncing off the rubber edges of the ping pong table. Or pinball is a better example of it. You know, the old pinball machines, and the ball popped up and you flipped it out, and then it just bounced around all the rubber edges, and you swatted at it with flippers. Well, that's what happens to patients now. We don't have a system. And that whole federal grant that I'm talking about, the SHIP grant, is to design a system where patients understand where they're supposed to go, when they go there, and once they get in the system system actually operates to reduce costs, et cetera, and maintain or build, not maintain, but to build a sustainable system. Now, we can't do that by this July, but over the next 4 to 5 years, We have to do that, or the whole thing will collapse.
It almost sounds like you're talking about the Veterans Administration in some respects. We're looking at a crumbling, stumbling, and bumbling effort by the VA to try to take care of our vets, and they too need money. They've had spending, overspending, and problems, and now Medicare and Medicaid seem to be almost following in the same shadow. Is that a bad analogy?
I don't think that's a bad analogy at all, but let me tell you something. It's not just a reflection of the VA or any other segment of the healthcare. It's the fact that we simply don't have a healthcare system in the United States like other countries. We saw a presentation today of Denmark, which literally started down, which asked themselves the same question that we are asking ourselves now 30 years ago, because they were on track to have an unsustainable system. And they reverted to principally a primary care system, etc., which that and several other countries around the globe now have mature systems that show how you can actually take care of significant populations and have a sustainable model. And you know what, Seb? Their outcomes are better than ours. Their people are living longer and having less disease processes. And if they can do it, we can too.
Would you suggest that my audience, what can they do? What would you have them do? What do they need to have for information? I mean, I feel an informed public is a public that won't have something sneak up on them and bite them. What would you tell my listeners that they need to be doing with their doctors and their health care? What would you say?
Well, the first thing is, with respect to this worry that has been presented to you about the news articles appearing with respect to the ability to get access to physicians. Every single patient needs to have a primary health care provider, whether it's a family practice doctor, whether it's a general internist, and if you have some kind of chronic disease such as diabetes, you should have a diabetic specialist. But for the general patient that is in good health, no matter your age, you need a primary care physician. And the first thing you need to do is to maintain a relationship with that primary care physician and become educated about your own health care, and then sit with your primary care physician and find out how you and they are supposed to be managing your health care. It's about relationships, Zeb. If you've got a good relationship with a primary care provider, I don't know of primary care providers that pitch people like that out of their practices, even if, in fact, the reimbursement by your insurance carrier, if that's Medicare, is significantly reduced. 99.9% of physicians will not do that. They will not jettison those patients out of their practice. But it's only if you show that you've got a good relationship with them, you're interested in your own health care, and you participate in your own health care.
Fred,
that's what I would do.
Fred, is there and again, for lack of better terminology, is there a centralized number or centralized source of information where people can go to help answer some of these questions I know that are coming up?
The people that I know that are most on top of this literally are people's primary care physicians. They are watching this. They know that this is about to come up, and they know what people need to be doing to preparing for this. That is the place that I would go.
Okay. Now, real quick, I've only got about a minute left in this segment, but other issues, legislative session 2015, what else did you want to bring to our attention quickly this morning?
My understanding is that there is a path forward on education, that the major principal players there have come to an agreement. Secondly, I think we will sine die on the 27th of March or shortly thereafter. Thirdly, transportation bill is a mess, but it will not hold us up here. there are more ideas than there are votes to pass any bill, and I don't think transportation, if I had to call it right now, I would say that transportation probably doesn't go anywhere this year. We do have a consensus on a fish and game bill, a fee increase with a price lock, and some good depredation programs, etc., to take care of our landholders on the southern front that are being inundated by elk. That's what I see as the major components right now, and that's the status of them.
Okay. I want to tell you how much I appreciate your taking the time, busy time this morning, to be on the radio, Representative Fred Wood, and being very straightforward and honest about what's happening with Medicare, Medicaid, etc. Fred, thank you. God bless you, and we'll look forward to having you on again real soon.
Zeb, keep up with the health care issue, and I'll be happy to come back anytime, not even on a Monday, but anytime during the week of any week to help try and answer some questions. Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Fred Wood at the Idaho Legislature. Caller, if you'll hold just for a moment or two, please. I've got to get a weather forecast in here real quick, and the weather is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Don't forget, offering the very best of beef, pork, lamb, and wild game processing. They are the best and have been in southern Idaho for over 20 years. Scarrows Meats in Jerome, guaranteeing everything they sell. Right now, here is the weather.
Weather for today, looks like mostly sunny skies. Going to be a little bit breezy as we get through the afternoon. High of 50. Tonight, clear skies, low of 26. Tomorrow, sunny and 51. Currently sitting at about 37 degrees for KBAR Studios.
Gina, great job. Thank you very much. Scarrows Meats, selling taste one bite at a time. 331 North Road, Jerome. Don and the rest of the crew ready to serve you. As I said, they guarantee everything they sell, and everything they sell is delicious at Scarrows Meats. Oh, do we have a call? Gina, is that call still there? Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I didn't get in time, but I was going to ask Dr. Woods about that messing around with our tax deal on our groceries and that. You know, we get a deal every year to send in, and we get that $120 a piece.
Right.
I wonder if they're going to mess with that.
I'll tell you what I will do, and next Monday on the program, I believe Senator Dean Cameron's going to be on, and you can feel free to call in. I'll make sure that we get time right in the first of the hour to have you ask him that question. I believe he's scheduled for next Monday.
Okay.
All right. Al, thank you so much. I want to quickly tell everybody about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and it's Founders Celebration time in honor of Mr. Les Schwab. What a great gentleman he was, and what an absolutely great business he started, Les Schwab Tire Centers. Right now, they've got tires, all-season tread, economically priced, some starting as low as just $39.99. That's right, some as low as that. And don't forget, excuse me as I choke, the very best in brake value and brake service. Believe me, they are excellent. And the front end alignments, the shocks and struts, of course, the best in batteries. They really have the best in service to you. And right now, don't forget also specials, $50 off custom wheels when you buy a new set of 4. Absolutely. You stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. First of all, I want to go back to what happened earlier this morning. I had a little problem with my health, and we had to go get it checked out, and that's why I was a little bit late getting on the air this morning, and my thanks again to a lady that she's my right-hand girl Friday, and that's Gina over at our main studio. So, Gina, thank you again for all your effort.
Anytime.
And also my lovely wife, Deanne, and we will be back on the air tomorrow morning at 8:06, and we've got a lot of neat guests coming on the show tomorrow, including Brad Bolin with Idaho Power. And we've got, we've got a gentleman coming on talking about a green documentary as to why the radicals with the Obama administration and others are really pushing green energy. And, of course, also Dr. History. So don't miss it tomorrow, starting at 8:06, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. The way things were are the way things ought to be. We'll see you then.